Let's take you to KwaZulu-Natal now, where the March Civic Movement continues to stage a protest at the Addington Primary School in Durban, even after learners have been placed. Last week, police were called in to intervene after violent clashes broke out between South African and foreign national parents. The parents claim that the children of foreign nationals were accommodated before theirs. Here's SABC News reporter Jade Paulse, who joins us now for an update on the story. So, Jade, why is March continuing to stage a protest there?
Well, a very good morning to Mxolisi and to the viewers back at our home. And I think it's very important to put the story into context. So last week, the protests and the demonstrations was about placing the children. But obviously, the story has several legs. And it has now emerged that 40 of those 66 children that needed placement were actually flood victims. And their parents are residing in the area, especially in this particular area of Addington Primary School. Now, these parents are saying that although the Department of Education has placed their children in year-bound schools, they can't afford the transport. Some of them are saying that a taxi is 900 Rand to the school, and they've got 2 to 3 children. So saying that they're back to square one. They want their children to be placed in Addington Primary School, in the precinct and in the area where they reside, and not be taken to Greyville, which is actually across the Durban CBD. But to speak to us more about that, I am joined by March Jacinta Ngobese-Zuma. Thank you so much for joining us, Jacinta. Obviously, the story has several legs. It has been moving from demonstrations to try and find placement for the 66 learners. We're now back at square one, where some of these learners are still sitting at home because they can't get to their respective schools the department has placed them in.
Yeah, so we came here on Friday, and we found a number of them at home. And when I talk about at home, I'm talking about the actual building that they were placed in from what happened after the floods. So they all were taken in and put into one building down the road. And these kids, when you get there and you ask them why they're not at school, they're like, my mom can't afford. Like, all of them are aware that the reason that they're not at school is because their mother can't afford to take them to school. When you talk to the parents, some of them are saying that, I've got 3 children, I can't afford 900 Rand to go to Greyville. So sometimes they alternate, like one child will go to school today, then tomorrow is the next child. A very heartbreaking thing, I think that really broke my heart. And the parent, you can see, is trying and wants by all means for their child to experience the experience of school. And then you get a Department of Education that says, oh my gosh, no, you guys are making a fuss about nothing because we've solved the problem. We've put the children at Greyville and the parents must make means. And we're saying to the department, you can't solve a problem by creating another problem, because you're saying you solve the problem of placement. You've placed them, but where did you place them? You obviously didn't place them at a place that's convenient and affordable for them, because some of the parents are even saying they can't afford the fees at Greyville, but they're willing to even try, but the transport is an issue. So now you're trying to have money to pay the fees, and also trying to have money to take your children and transport them to take them to school. So that's the heartbreaking situation we find ourselves in, which is why we're here again today to appeal to the department to say, if it was one of their children here, I'm sure this would have been solved much quicker, because we know that people only relate to certain things once it starts affecting them. So we're here today because it's poor black people whose children can't afford to go to a school that they don't regard as that much of a big deal. But to someone who can actually walk to school instead of paying 900 Rand, that's a lot, and it's heartbreaking to have South African children. As you can see, some of them are trying to go to the beach this morning just to come and, de-stress and get over the day, when they're supposed to be in school learning like other children. And we get a lot of criticism from people saying, oh, but you're disturbing learning. One thing I can assure you is that our government never responds if you try and go the right way of doing things. So we're saying if they want to insist that kids who are foreign kids who are in the school must continue learning and must not be disturbed, then we will continue to disturb them until the South African kids are placed, because the South African parents whose kids are inside don't have a problem with what they're doing, because they understand that if the shoe was on the other foot and their children are not placed, they'd probably be here joining us as well. So we're not going to stop just because foreigners are complaining, and they can go and complain to whoever their government is.
So Jacinta, how many learners are actually sitting at home now, just to get some clarity, and also from those learners, how many cannot afford to go to school? Ironically, I was with the MEC of Transport, Siboniso Duma, on Friday, who is assisting the Department of Education. There is a backlog of 150,000 learners on a waiting list for transport. Has there been any, meeting between yourself, the other organizations, the Department of Education, with regards to these learners? But I think let's start at the beginning. How many learners are currently sitting at home?
Well, we're sitting today. We counted 16 today. On Friday, there was 32. So like I said, it depends on the day, because some parents will say, oh, I'll take them to school today because I've got a bit of money. It was the 25th. Some of them probably got money from family or whoever to take the children to school. But today, we're sitting at 16 of them sitting at home. And on Friday, it was 32. So we're not sure of the accurate number, and the unfortunate thing is some of the parents are not willing to come out because they don't want to anger members of their political party. That's why they decided that they don't want to be involved in whatever it is that we're counting.
And have you spoken to the Department of Education?
We've reached out to the departments even before we started with the pickets, and every time they do come to the school, they ask us to be excluded, and they talk to the parents, which is fine, it's their prerogative. But we're saying at the end of the day, if the parents are coming to us and they're looking for assistance from us, there's no way we're not going to assist, because we have been clear from the beginning that the country has a crisis when it comes to illegal immigration. And instead of the government coming up with solutions that are feasible, that are going to make life livable for a South African, they're making life more difficult by continuously saying that the Constitution says, when I continuously say that the Constitution cannot say provide something that you don't have. The Constitution makes it explicitly clear that you...
All right, we have to cut out of that report with Jade Paulse on the March and Civic Movement protest at the Addington Primary School. Thanks so much for that.